Hello everyone. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I hope you all are fine. Alhamdulillah, I'm also good. Yeah, as you know, today we invited a very distinguished guest, Professor Dr. Bulbul Seddiqi, to present a very vital topic, as you can see on our announcement, on the topics empowering the Rohingya researchers, building capacity and expertise. So this is our topic today. We're going to discuss about these topics. So as a professor, as an expert, we want to learn much about the research and how we can be a good researcher and contribute effectively to our cause as a Rohingya. Of course, also you're being part of our cause, did many research, conducted many research, especially Rohingya crisis, of course. And especially in this course, as an instructor, on behalf of the Rohingya Academic Research Institute, I am delighted to welcome our Professor Dr. Bulbul to speak on these very important topics. And we are so happy to have you with us today and expecting to learn many insights into how research can effectively drive global advocacy and support for the Rohingya community. As an expert, we believe that your expertise will provide many things and understanding the critical issue of Rohingya crisis and how it is important for the Rohingya peoples. And thank you for joining us, especially for accepting my invitations. And inshallah, this is this is a first time, inshallah. I also hope that you will give us some more times with us, inshallah, in the future. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Kaisar, and it's a great pleasure to meet everyone today. And I hope that with this presentation, from a mutual perspective, we'll be able to learn something together. So I hope you can hear me, right? So let me share my slide.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you're audible. We hear you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so you can see my slide, right?
Yeah, it's visible.
So I'll be talking today about different parts of research. So as young researchers and academic, what we need to do and what approach do we need to follow in the academic field. So I'll try to talk a little bit about that. I had some slides, but I sometimes will talk more about the community, Rohingya community, and also touch upon some of the issues. How can you contribute to the community? So first of all, if you think about the capacity building, right? So what does that mean? If you look into the UNDP, the definition that UNDP provided on capacity building, it's the main thing is, increasing knowledge and skills in general. That's the, very overarching definition. So it's very general. But if you also want to look into that in more detail, you can see that it's a process by which individuals, groups, organizations, institutions, and societies can increase their ability to contribute broadly in two areas. So one is perform core functions, solve problems, define and achieve objectives, right? So, and the second is understand and deal with the development needs in a broader context and a sustainable manner, right? So you can now see, if you think from the individual perspective, what we need to do. We need to have some, achieve some skills or knowledge that would help us to, first of all, understand certain problem or need that our community has, and then we can function, or we can work to solve that problem and to achieve certain goals and objectives, right? So in many cases, we do research for to resolve some problem. Sometimes we do research to generate knowledge. Sometimes we do research to contribute on the policy formation. For example, from my perspective, I can say that all of my writing, and especially on the Rohingya community, that helps. I believe that I want to put all these my understanding about the community, the vulnerability, about the sustainable solution to the national level policymaker in Bangladesh. And also, I want to take this to the wider global policymakers through my writing, right? So from that perspective, you can see that it has another perspective. It's not only research, right? It has another component that is, we call advocacy. And for the advocacy, perhaps you know that the organizations, they play a significant role. If you look into the various non-profit organizations, like NGOs, they work to promote the rights, and they want to get the attention from the donor, from the policymakers in different aspects of the problem. If you look into the Rohingya problem, Rohingya crisis within the region, and that is the national, regional, impact. But at the same time, if you think about the whole community as a whole, what sort of need they have, what we need to do for them. For that reason, we need to have advocacy. So for an effective advocacy, we need to have evidence or research informed, advocacy policy. That is one aspect that we need to focus on. And another thing is, in many cases in the developing nations, they do not want to, or there is no practice of using research or evidence-based data to resolve a problem. So that is another issue that we can bring in, because without having research informed or evidence-based advocacy or policy dialogue or policy, negotiation, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to reach to a sustainable solution to a particular problem. So if you think about on the whole Rohingya issues, that we have many research. Some research can, policymakers are taking into serious consideration. Some research they do not look into the consideration at all. So for that reason, advocacy comes to the discussion, because like people like Kaisar and people like many other people, they're living in different parts of the world. If you look into your community member who are living in the UK, Canada, USA, those people are raising their voice and trying to do something for the community, right? They take your voice, they take the issue to the global level, like UN, international organizations, powerful countries, so that through that advocacy, they can bring some positive changes. So for that reason, I think for young academic, young researchers, young people like you, if you develop your skill properly, then probably you can have more, more space to talk. And if you write on behalf of your community, if you bring that issues to the global level, then people will hear your problem, right? So then it will have some chances to talk. So now if you, we're coming back to the research now. So if you look into this photo, you can see that the two young children, they're smoking and looking into the uh, uh, other parts, or just they were very curious whether some people can see them or not. You can see that in our cultural context, maybe in your cultural context, this scenario is not very acceptable, right? So, but you can see that in the Western countries, it also has the similar sort of perspective. So people want to understand two things. You can understand, like why they smoke, or what are the social cultural perspective of smoking. I'm just bringing this issue just out of curiosity. So this urge to know something is the purpose of research. Like if you want to understand about anything, you need to uh, do research. If you do not do research, then probably you'll have some knowledge that doesn't inform, or that doesn't backed up by the evidence. So this is the definition, or not definition, like you can say that some of the key points of research. So research is a process. Research is a systematic study of facts. Research is something to bring your critical thinking approach. Research is to bring the sociological imagination. The sociological imagination, it means that seeing things with a different lens, right? So when you see your problem with your own eyes, sometimes it's very difficult to identify what are the key problems, right? So if you think about from an outsider perspective, then probably you'd be understanding what is the problem. So both of the approaches have some strengths and also limitations. For example, as a uh, community member of a particular community, I may have very good understanding. That's the strength. But sometimes being a member of a community can have, uh, can create a situation where you can overlook some of the problems. But if you think it from the outsider perspective, you can, all these smaller problems or detail can be important on that perspective. So seeing your community from outside or from with the lens of outsider would be another approach of research. So what are the purpose? As I brought in the first slide, like skill building, knowledge generating. So that's the purpose of research. Like, first of all, we generate knowledge, right? And then we want to understand root cause of a problem. And we want to understand the wider understanding of a particular topic. For example, if you think about your community issues, then you can see the difficulties in Myanmar, how you negotiate with your citizenship. And then if you think about like regional perspective, like many Rohingya community, they're living in Bangladesh. What were their situation in Bangladesh? What were their situation in other countries? Why we do not, we fail to have repatriation? Why we fail to have, create a safe environment in your own country? So these are the questions that if we get answers, then it will give you wider understanding of this topic. So you can see that research can give you wider understanding, and through that process, you can reach to a conclusion what are the basic causes, which we call root causes of a problem. So if you understand the root causes of problem, then you can apply and come up with some recommendations. You can see that some people come up with recommendations that doesn't have any base, right? So if you come up with some solution and recommendation, if it doesn't have any justification, that will not work in a very appropriate manner. So that's why we need research. So I'm just giving you very brief understanding about different perspective of research. So when you think about research, then we have different types of research. We need to design a particular research based on the particular topic. Sometimes, like my background is anthropology, so I mainly focus on qualitative research, ethnographic research, right? So that's my area of interest. So I want to know the causes. I just do not want to know what. I want to know the question of how, which, where, which process, this kind of questions, right? So I want to get into the detail. So that's why I follow qualitative research. So there are many types of research. So I'll focus some of the important and dominant research type. The first one is qualitative, and example is ethnographic research. I'll come back to that. And then quantitative. Then we have mixed method, like both combination of qualitative and quantitative. And then we have secondary analysis. We have experimental research, like that, right? So if you look into some of the tools, like what we use in different types of research, right? So these are the method of data collection. So when you talk about qualitative research, like the first one, then we use this kind of method. Sorry, I'm moving to. So probably I think I should explain a little bit about the qualitative research, then come back to that. Sorry. So qualitative research, as an example, we sometimes use ethnographic research. So ethnographic research is a anthropological perspective. We use in a different, we use a different perspective, for example, or method. For example, when we want to understand a particular community, we go to the community and stay with them for a longer time. Then we write, and we call it participant observation. We participate with them and we stay with the community for a month, 2 months, 3 months, sometimes more than a year. Then we come up with rich data, and then we can write about them. We call it the field work. And field work involves everything, like data collection, how we collect data, and observation. Sometimes you know that you can just sit and observe people behavior. So that would also give you some sort of idea about the behavior and about different things. So this is ethnographic research. So these are some of the characteristics of ethnographic research. So I'm not going into that to detail because we don't have much time, right? So in anthropology, in ethnography, we use a term called going native. That means that if you follow this qualitative ethnographic research, then you have to go to the community and live with them. Like this white man, he went to a community in Trobriand Island near the, Australia, Melanesia, that area is an island. And he went there and he spent there 4 years of his time. And it is also linked with colonial perspective. So look at the photos and look at the community. So he went there, he spent 4 years of time, and then he wrote about their community later on after coming back to London. So now if I look into this method, this is mostly a quantitative method. Perhaps you know, right? So quantitative method, we have some set questionnaires. With that set questionnaire, we just, complete some of the questionnaire structures. Like you cannot add anything, and you cannot go within that structure. So that we call survey, which is dominant form of quantitative research. So if we now come back to these methods of data collection, so if you can look into that, sometimes we call that interview. So interview or in-depth interview, which is mostly, unstructured interview. Basically, informal setup. We use an informal setup and checklist guideline. It's open-ended. If you have long time, you can go and talk to them, and you can just talk and in an informal, friendly manner. But you have to have all the questions in your mind. And you can have a guideline, but you just have the approach to discuss with somebody in a very loose manner, very informal manner. You can go to coffee shop, you can have a long discussion. Sometimes we have long discussion, right? For example, on a particular topic, we're having coffee with friends and have a long discussion. So that kind of approach. And it is very effective sometimes, because it creates a bond with the person you're talking, and it reduces the barriers. So that's why when people feel safe, they can talk more about their so, and they can talk without any barrier, without any without any fear, and they can talk frankly. So that's the strength of in-depth interview, which is part of qualitative research. But when we come back to the second point, structured interview, that is example of quantitative research. So mainly we do survey. Sometimes we do household census, right? And the third point is semi-structured interview. That means sometimes we have a long combination of structured and unstructured, like combination of number one, the first one and second one, in-depth interview and structured interview. So we call it semi-structured interview. So we have a written questions, and it's not like survey. Written questions, interview guide are there, but it's mostly open-ended. Open-ended means like you can have a discussion, right? And then the last one we use very frequently. We call it focus group discussion. So focus group discussion is mainly a group discussion. We bring a group of people, like 6 to 8 people, and we bring people from the same categories of people. For example, if we want to have focus group with the female, we only need to bring female. If we think about it, if our topic is adolescent, we can bring the adolescent people. We cannot mix people from 2 different groups, for example, male, female together, or older female and younger female together. We cannot do that, because if you do that, then there will be some power going on, power relations going on. So probably in front of our elder people, younger people may not talk, right? So that's why it has to be homogeneous group, like similar categories of people. So that's why we need this kind of method. So another, like we discuss about types of research. So first one is qualitative, quantitative. Now, if you look into the mixed method, so sometimes we also do research that we call mixed method research, like we apply both qualitative and both quantitative. For example, you apply interview. Sometimes we do survey. Like recently, I've done a research on intangible cultural heritage of Rohingya community. Then we have done some interviews of different people, like in-depth interviews, and then we brought used survey. We have more than 400 survey questionnaires, and we are combining both qualitative and quantitative. We call it mixed method approach, right? So these are the three types of research that we follow mostly. There another one, like second research based on literature review. We do some research based on that. And another one is experimental research, which is like more practical. So I'm not going to discuss that today's session because it has a different perspective. I'm just putting the name on. So last few points that I would like to make, that is like you have to remember about your position. So we call it positionality. Like sometimes we can be very biased if we study our own community. Like for example, if you study your own community, it can be, you can be biased during your study, during your interview, during your field work. So that you need to be aware of. You should not take a position. Definitely, there are certain issues that you have to take position. For example, you have to talk about your rights. You have to talk about your citizenship. You have to talk about genocide. You have to take these issues to the wider world. That's okay. But by saying biased, I mean that without any justification, you put your effort and you try to just like add your voice for a particular reason. So try to avoid that, right? And and some, like we have 7 important bullet points that you need to remember when you do research, that we call ethics of research. So you have to maintain that ethical context. So Kaiser, I see that there's 2 minutes left.
Yeah. Can you please end up this section? We're going to start another Zoom links. Yeah.
Oh,
please. Okay. Thank you. Please join again, please, with the same link.
with the same link. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Please. Thank you.
No problem. So when you talk about ethics, so there are certain points that we have to remember. So these ethical points were developed by American Sociological Association. That is Code of Ethics. They developed in 1971 and then they revised it in 1997. What are these? The one point is you have to maintain your objectivity, integrity, I mean your honesty. You shouldn't manipulate your research findings, right? That first point. Another point is when you do research with somebody, some community people, so respect their rights, respect to their privacy and dignity. Do not do anything that harms their privacy, dignity, and other issues. And remember that because of your research, you're not doing any personal harm to somebody else. So that's why sometimes we do not use the names of interviewee, right? So we maintain a confidentiality. So before you talk to somebody, seek their permission and ask them whether they're okay whether they're happy to talk to you. Ask if they're happy to be recorded.